I am Nivedita Indrajit and I'm in conversation with Vedavyas.
Hello.
So we've known each other for about a year or a year and a half right now. I think maybe
Over
roughly.
almost 2 years, I think.
Yeah. So your sister's my friend, and then
Yes,
your mother became my friend, and then
yes,
you became
I
my
can.
friend. And then we interacted and spoke, and we always get into a conversation. It goes into a lot of
Yes,
conversations continue. Like we start
forever.
with 10 minutes and it goes to so many hours sometimes. So
Yes.
thank you for coming today. So I'd
Thank you
like
for
to know,
inviting.
although I know the story, I would like a brief introduction about how it started for you,
Mm.
how the journey of you and how nuclear scientist
Yes,
became a person who is now talking about spiritual heroes.
yes, thank you. Uh, my journey started quite before that. Even in childhood, I was very interested in personal development. That was always there. My mother used to buy, my parents were very spiritual, religious, I would rather say, and a little bit spiritual. And we used to go to satsang, and my mother used to bring a lot of literature, books on different biographies of saints and all these things, and some concept books. So I used to read whatever I liked out of it. I love reading. So that is how it gripped me. Reading stories of various sadhus, sons, saint Ramana Maharshi, Ramakrishna Paramsa. Those stories actually held me that this is something that is possible in human life, and this seems to be how one should live. And that then I also used to attend satsang where our Guruji used to tell amazing stories for children, especially. Even his narrative was also had a lot of stories in it. So those stories are what uh, guided me in the sense of laid the foundation of what I have today. And then when I actually became a nuclear scientist at Mumbai, I was working in Baba Atomic Research Center. I came into contact with Brahma Kumaris. What I loved about Brahma Kumaris was when I sit there in their program, even a small program, there was an aura of peace. And it just gripped me that this is what I want to experience and be there just like that. And then that taught me meditate. I want to be like that. I want to create that. So that peacefulness, creating that became something that I needed to do at that time. So I learned meditation. I started teaching meditation. For about 9 years, being a nuclear scientist, I learned meditation in different ways. Uh, Especially in Brahma Kumaris, there is no standard way.
Okay.
It's an evolutionary relationship with God. So we evolve it every time.
Mm.
And there were some amazing experiences in that. One of the first experiences that really gripped me was when I first time went to our main center for a big program. Our main teacher, in charge of that whole zone, she's a very powerful spiritual personality called Nalini. And when she arrived and was sitting on the stage, I was in the front row. So I came early because I was really excited finding out what is this all about, and just learning new. And I was expecting peace, that I was overwhelmed with love. It was like waves of love are flowing through the whole arena there. And she is the center of that ocean. And from there, everything is flowing. And almost 2 hours the program went on. Everything was happening. I was listening, but nothing was going into my head. I was just gripped on that feeling of divine love that was just continuously flowing. Whatever she's speaking, not speaking, doing, not doing, maybe she's distracted, someone is asking her something, she answers, or behind some organizational details, but the love was continuously flowing. It's like a tap left open, or whatever we can say.
Yeah.
And I was just enjoying that. And the program, at the end of the program in Brahma Kumaris, there is a system called taking drishti, taking the power through seeing each other. So
Okay.
the whole audience, about 200 or 300 people, go in line, take drishti from Didi and move on. When they were taking drishti, I was feeling like they are getting drishti, but there is so much overflowing towards me. I didn't move. Almost 1 hour of drishti process, I was just sitting there and enjoying the whole thing. And finally, Didi called me when she saw this guy is not moving and is lost in this. So I went there, and she gave special drishti, and that was at that time something moved inside. This is how a person should be. Spiritual personality is this. That powerful energy is what I really love, and that was a life changing moment in my life. Then the relationship between me and Didi for later after that was like I became a little bit psychic in the sense that uh, whenever she is within 1 or 2 kilometers range of me, I know Didi is there and she's coming or she's going. So that was a sort of connection. There is a peace park, a garden where we used to do service. We used to help people in meditation or maintaining that area and everything. And whenever I'm there, the moment Didi is supposed to come, nobody used to tell me. I used to be at the gate to invite her. And people used to ask, how did you know? I know she's coming there. And within 2 minutes, Didi's car enters. And then so that was the connection that was established. And another very powerful moment in my life was there was a program called Peace Messenger. It was, I think, after the Bombay attacks that happened, terrorist attacks, we wanted to create the environment of peace there. So I took about 2 weeks leave from working at my job, and we used to travel all around Mumbai and send a message of peace. And it was so dedicated that one day, after a week or so, I went to meet Didi in the evening after the whole day services. And Didi suddenly said, "You are an angel." Until then, I didn't understand what that angel means. Because then when I checked myself, I was actually walking as if I'm walking on air rather than on the ground. I became so light with the whole process of uh, being with peace and giving peace and dedicating myself focusedly on that aspect. So these are some of the things that really created that, yes, this is possible. This is how one should be. But then that was the first few years of learning meditation and enjoying it. And that is called honeymoon period.
I see.
Then comes the real life. So, and the real life comes, then the true lessons emerge that you're not doing this well, you're not doing that well. There's something goes wrong, and then that energy, that whole thing that we have built up comes down, and then we have to struggle to actually develop ourselves to that level so that we can actually be that.
Right.
So finding my way around in the blind, though there are a lot of people around and helping, it still appears like I'm still blind. I'm just got a glimpse of it, and now I have to work and get there. So that was the spiritual aspect that really changed me, that inspires me, that even today that is what I want to be like. Then when I was then after about 9 years of working at BIRC, I resigned my job because I wanted to do more. It was not enough. And what is not enough is that as we want more, like when we practice meditation, some things naturally change and some things don't. And why did this not change? I want to change this as well. Right? So then I have to do more meditation. Then I have to do more meditation. Then I have to do more meditation. Then life is not enough. There's not enough space in life for anything else. So I thought, I'm wasting 8 hours in a job where I'm earning money for what? I'm alone. My parents don't need money. They have their own pensions and everything. And everybody is settled. So why should I make money? My sister is married and she has her own life. And I had the tendency of being a sannyasi. So I said, this feeling of not enough time was very depressing. So finally, I decided that it's done. I resigned and went to Mount Abu. Many people said, no, that you have very good government job. Why are you leaving it? That moment has gone. That the security, all those didn't matter anymore.
When you're
So,
seeking something also, you seek it.
Yes. So then I resigned and went to Mount Abu. It was another beautiful journey there, and a lot of intense moments and everything. But the most life-changing part of that was I had a lot of time. Despite doing a lot of service, uh, in an organization that big, you are not 100% engaged. So what I used to do is I used to learn a lot. I used to go online and do a lot of psychology courses, especially social psychology, because I'm serving the society. So one of the stories really there I learned, I try to apply in my life. And that got me the realization that in somewhere something is missing. In the sense that when there is a story about a European guy who comes to Africa and tries to develop those people there, because he's coming from Europe, a society that is, to say, they think they are very cultured and they are very developed countries. So he wants Africa to be developed. So he goes to a village in Africa, which is nearby a river in the jungle, and it's a beautiful jungle. And these people are hunters and gatherers. They don't even have agriculture. So they live in a poor, what to say, huts and all those things, and they are happy. And he's not happy about them. He goes there and he tries to teach people that there is a civilized society out there. You have to become civilized, and you can earn a lot of money. You can actually have very secured buildings or sort of things. But it didn't matter to them. We are happy where we are. Then he thought we should demonstrate for them. What can I demonstrate? Then he thought, yes, agriculture is one thing he learned as a child. So at least I can teach agriculture, if not anything else. But even agriculture, they were not ready to listen to. So he said, I'll at least demonstrate. And he cleared a patch of the 1 acre around where he was living and started. He brought the seeds from his hometown, and then he started tomatoes and all the vegetables he used to grow. And people used to come and visit and see what he's doing. They used to appreciate him, what he's doing, but they never took whatever he said. Where people come to us, they appreciate you are doing so great and all, but they actually don't receive. Yeah. So they were not receiving. And he was, that actually this part of people not receiving is really touched me, because I see that happening even when we serve.
Yes.
And why is this receiving not happening was my question as well. So when the story went on, one day at night, when the tomatoes were ripe and big, much better than his hometown, he was surprised that it came up so well, and he was about to harvest next day. What happened was, that area has a wild population of rhinoceros. Sometimes they go on rampage. And that day, unfortunately, they came quite near to the village and trampled his vegetable patch and destroyed everything. Next day, he was very sad. The village elders came to him and consoled him. And finally, they said, this is why we don't do agriculture. So his lesson was that if you want to help someone, help them in the way they need it, not way you think they need.
Right.
So what do they really need was my question. So if I'm serving people, what do they really need? So I went, and whenever I used to go all over India to conduct different programs on spirituality, self-development, stress management, and meditation, and all these things. I was very popular because of my profile of working as a scientist. So a lot of organizations, someone with that profile invite. Otherwise, they usually avoid other people. So teachers in different areas used to specifically invite me. because that there's a research center there, they want to serve there, and only my profile will be allowed there. But during that period, I used to interact with the rest of the meditation students who come to that center and everything. And I used to ask them, what are you actually facing? What would you like help for? Their concerns were very domestic. Because if a person is living in normal life, their concerns will be domestic. The concerns were, my husband is not listening to me, my children are not listening to me, I have financial problems, or this or that. There were hardly any spiritual questions. There are not any intellectual questions. Okay, I'm serving people who are not intellectuals. Even intellectuals have these problems. These are the real problems. This is what needs to be addressed.
Yeah, it's true, right? As a facilitator, you facilitate on their awareness and their capacity to receive, not what you can give.
Yes. So then I try to, if I have to answer this question that my husband is not listening to me, how would I answer that? Then that was a really tough question for me, because people also don't listen to me.
Interesting.
So, but then even many of the questions which I could answer, again, I'm going to the same pattern or tendency that more meditation will solve many things. Actually, meditation might solve it, but the time and the amount of effort that takes is too costly for them. They can't afford that. Then what is the way? There should be a better way. So then I started learning various different processes, how to help people at the level that they can, and giving them solution that will be suitable for them. That's when I became a life coach. Life coaching is a process where we actually understand where the other person is and start from there, rather than what I know and starting from here. So learning life coaching was itself a very transformative process for me. I realized that I was always being an expert.
Yeah.
I was on the stage, so I'm an expert. So whatever expert says, people appreciate. That respect is there. But in life coaching, you are not an expert. Client is the expert, because it's their life. They know it better than you. Right. To get this shift itself took me a while. It was very hard. I thought it shouldn't be so hard, but it was very hard. Then that's how my journey started of being a life coach, with that shift. And then after a while, one of my friends in Mumbai, they were depressed. And the depression was there, and they were asking me to help with life coaching. You are learning life coaching, why don't you help? So in life coaching, we are taught, never do life coaching for a depressed person or who needs psychological counseling, because life coaching doesn't work for them. So I told them, disclaimer, this usually doesn't work, but if you want, we can try. No, I don't want. I have a psychiatrist for the depression part. I want for work part, as if they are both separate. Then so we can try, but okay, let's see. And we used to have wonderful discussion for 1 hour of the session. And by the end of the session, there was a lot of realizations. Yes, I should do this, I should do that. But next week, nothing is done. I observed 2-3 sessions, and I really understood what the problem was. Problem was not about them understanding or not understanding themselves. Problem was deeper. There was a lot of emotions involved, strong emotions, and they were blocking her progress. And then I suggested, this is not working, as you know. We are discussing, you are getting a lot of realization, but nothing is working. But I like to try something else. Yes, sure, let's see. So I took her into meditation trance. And in the meditation trance, I brought up those emotions and helped her heal herself. This was totally intuitive that I'll try this. I never done that before. Just will of, or to say, pure intention of helping her, created that process on the fly. And that really helped her get the breakthroughs. Then we did a few more sessions, and there were a lot of breakthroughs, and she was really happy. And then the sessions ended after a while, when the breakthroughs were not so intense and she didn't need it anymore. But that got me to the process that this is not something that will help only people who are depressed. Even depressed people, only some people it helps, not everybody. But uh, normal population, this is very useful if they are very strong emotional baggage somewhere, or very strong belief systems,
Yeah.
which are very strong and actually damaging them. This process might be very useful. So I studied that process, improved that process, and now I call it memory healing and offer it as a product called Healer. So those people who have emotional baggage, for them that is a very powerful program, and they don't have to put a lot of effort. They have to just spend time with me, and those baggages are cleared. So around that, I developed again my coaching process also. It took few years to develop it. Normal coaching that I learned was sort of okay, but uh, my insights into the coaching process, into personalities, I different learnings from different sources. Uh, I created a new process called Lamuri.
Mm.
Lamuri, what it means is self-love. So, what exactly I mean by that is, when we are in stress or we don't like something, that means we don't like ourselves in that aspect, in that point. So when I don't know an answer, I don't like myself, right? So I need to find an answer, or it will stress me, or something else. I don't know. So when that state is there, I don't like myself. Creating that shift from I don't like myself to I like myself automatically creates solution. That's what I understood. So this shift, going to the emotions or the belief systems or whatever the process, has to create this shift. So I've created process where this shift happens and how to maintain this shift after the session as well. And
Okay.
I create that breakthrough. Once that happens, the person is solution minded and they'll find their own solutions. I don't have to tell them what to do, what not to do.
So roughly how many sessions does it take?
It's again a difficult question to answer.
For
Not because,
like in the cases that you have seen, or in the people
yes.
lives that you have seen, what was the minimum time kind of taken on maximum time taken to give a window of what to expect?
See, even a single session is so powerful that it can create life-changing shift. But typically, a normal person can try to get certain amount of result. Say 4 sessions are required. But if they have proper goals and they want to have multiple goals, like there is a lady who comes to me saying that her relationship with her husband is strained and her boss is micromanaging, and she feels guilty about not having enough time for her child, and then the whole in-laws and everything else put on that. So this typical problem issue, to come out of this, took 3 months with some healing sessions. Couple of healing sessions were required
I
because of
see.
so that is the kind of time it takes. At the end of 3 months, she felt very comfortable dealing with her husband, and because she understood what her husband was and how to deal with it, and she understood what developed her confidence to such a powerful level that she was able to put boss in place without affecting her work. Now he doesn't have that space to micromanage her. She was not vulnerable anymore. So she developed that personality. And she's now confident that if she wants, she can go for another job without being afraid of it. One of her biggest fear, because of which boss was able to do this, because she was afraid of losing her job. Now she has confidence that she can get any job. And that confidence, with that honesty and integrity of working for the company, created the space where people cannot affect her this way.
Right.
Then the same thing, that confidence in at home, created a proper boundaries in different relationships in a way that it is beneficial to both, with her in-laws, with her parents, in every way. So all her stress level went down. All her relationships improved. Even at work, her relationships improved. So there, such that changes can happen within three months. And if you see, I also work with divorced people, or who are going through divorce. That is a very painful stage in life. And in such cases, if some person comes that I am going to divorce and it's been so bad, and there's a lot of baggage and a lot of
Right.
layers of challenges there. With them, it might take 6 months or more.
Okay.
I have an NRI lady who has been a client, and within 6 months, she was able to go from a place where she was afraid of what will her ex-husband do to I don't care about him, he doesn't matter anymore. He's though he acts this way, I understand his behavior now, and it won't affect me. I can take care of it.
Right.
And even in the her child custody issue, she is very clear what she wants. No matter what she says, it's my life, I'll take care of it. So that confidence has come. Then with her parents, from child, usually parents can be supportive or very damaging as well. Because not because they want to damage you, but because they have their own value system.
Yes.
And that value system is too strong for them to let go, and it can be damaging to the legal process and many other processes.
Correct.
That are happening. So she learned how to deal with that as well and be comfortable with them. So that was a major achievement for her. Then to have next future perspective, who she wants to marry again. So with that, what kind of person, what kind of relationship I want. For that, what kind of personality should I have? What kind of confidence should I have? We developed that insight. So this whole thing took about 6 months.
I see.
So that is the kind of time frame.
So how did spiritual heroes come into place?
Yeah. So when we were working on such development, I wanted to create or do something more. And I wanted to create a workshop sort of thing about what all I've learned from these all process and create some process. So when we're thinking, what am I actually doing for these people? Then one thing I'm making is, I felt that whatever in childhood, that spirituality, the saints, all these were people were like, even Bhagavad Gita, the highest stage is a state of working without attachment, where people are unaffected. So I'm creating that strength inside me, where they are humble, they are also generous, they are kind, but they are powerful enough to create right boundaries. And so when you create right boundaries, we remain unaffected. So that strength of being immunity to effect of environment around us is what I'm building.
I see.
That is how I'm building that personality. So that's what spiritual growth is for. Though, as you see, might be like the spiritual process could be very powerful energy, like Nalini Didi I've seen, or those things. But those are extension of this. For a common person dealing with the day-to-day life, this is spirituality. This is the strength they need. If they want to take it to that level next, it's up to them. I love to help them, and I love to go there as well. But in the context of helping society, helping people, I think this is more relevant. This is the spiritual hero I am looking for. So it's not people who talk about virtues, but actually be able to practice these things practically without having the secondary problems. Why I call secondary problems is that when people speak about virtues, like being honest, if they're taken out of context, then there are a lot of damage that happens. For example, if a person is too honest, and you see, if in front of that person, I tell a joke, which is not really honest, but it is obvious. It's a joke, right? So will you laugh at it or will you take it seriously?
Laugh at it because it's a joke.
But what will that person do?
You'll probably take it seriously.
Why? Because honesty is very important. So if he takes it seriously, he will get offended. If he gets offended, how will he react?
Basically, you're saying if he buys into that idea.
Yes.
Instead of not being affected by the idea.
Yes. So that honesty is an idea that has become rigid, solidified, and non-adaptive,
Correct.
and that is damaging. Life is supposed to flow as a fluid as much as possible. And when we are fluid and understand the currents of life, it's very easy to live. The moment it becomes solidified, then there are storms and winds or even rocks that are falling that will hurt us very badly.
Right.
This is what I see happening.
So now what?
So this was my journey from nuclear scientist to a
You
life.
have this year program or something also, right? The one you're developing, where people actually come and work with you, and over a period of time, if they want, they can also be in service.
Yeah, that is a future program that I'm planning. So if someone wants to become a life coach in the process that I have created, the other life coaches are there. They have very beautiful process of their own. There are NLP life coaches. There are ICF life coaches. There are different techniques and tools they use. This Lamuri life coach sort of person who wants to learn this process where the shift is happening within the session. Like in every, even if a person coming to me for about 3 months or 6 months, every week there is a shift, a small shift, not a great shift, but all those shifts put together create this amazing transformation. So how to create those shifts, I want to teach to new generation of coaches. So, but I don't want to teach it as if like uh, the rest of the people do.
It's
There are
not
a lot
like a
of
school curriculum.
school curriculum.
It is experiential.
Experiential. So a person willing to stay with me for a couple of years, first they have to take coaching for 3 to 6 months from me and experience the process. And if they really love it and want to take it up as a career or learn it for their own personal development, then I'll have developing a course for about 6 months. It will be weekend course, so they don't have to stop doing anything. And then they go through that course, and then they can apprenticeship with me. I'll guide them through for next year or two, depending on their need. And once they are completely good coaches, they can either work with me or they can work by themselves. So that is the process we are creating.
Is the first batch on?
Not yet. We are. I have a few people who are interested, but I need more people for a batch. At least about I have 3 or 4 of my clients who are interested in learning. They've shown that, but they'll to actually have a effective batch, it should be about 7 to 10 people.
Okay.
So when that number of people come up, then I'll be able to start the batch.
Okay. Great. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you would like to talk about?
You are the person who are very curious, so you should tell me what you would like to know more.
Yeah, so I basically wanted, see, as a person, I think I have been a person who's a connector, who has been always curious about how people are living their life the way they are.
Right.
And I think it's been a journey knowing so many stories about what changed, what were those moments. And for me, it doesn't have to be somebody like Martin Luther King or Gandhi or Mother Teresa to make a difference. It is everyday people and their lives that every choice makes it an extraordinary journey. And we need to acknowledge it first before somebody else actually benefits from that journey.
Right.
And that is the intention with which I'm having these conversations with people. Because it's not just me telling about you. It's you telling your story and how it has changed you and what's the work you do. And eventually, I think whether people work with you about this or it makes a difference or just listening to you may choose something different. That is the intention behind this. So thank you. And
one thing I'd like to share, but the work I'm doing right now is I'm what I call myself is a core life coach. I'm building the core personality. But this personality, people want an application usually.
Correct.
Like I want a business development. I want say management development, leadership, or some might say I want women empowerment. These are very practical applications.
Correct.
So I'm working with trainers in these fields to integrate the core personality development curriculum sort of in their aspect.
It can be infused into there.
Infused into there, and we are creating common sort of thing. And this helps them reach out, give better deliver things to their clients. And it also helps those clients to get connected to me.
Correct.
It becomes a collaborative work. And this way we are able to reach more people.
Correct.
So I'm working with a person who is a lawyer, and there is a person who is a leadership coach, the person who is a business coach, and to develop these sort of programs.
Okay.
So this is one place I think if anybody would like to reach out and want to integrate and create new programs, I'll be really happy to work with them.
Okay.
One of the programs right now I'm developing is also about rebuilding, mastering second life.
Right.
So mastering second
we were
life
talking earlier about it.
People who are considering divorce or actually going through divorce process or have gone through divorce process, but still it holds on to their life. So what are the things that they will face? What are different? People don't understand what a person going to divorce goes through. There are so many dimensions, and not only about the ex-spouse, but their whole relationship identity changes.
Correct.
Like they have, the society sees it as a taboo, and there is a lot of judgment around it. So people constantly, these people face a lot of discrimination. So even from their own family, their parents may or may not be supportive. Their friends, again, they lose a lot of friends, and they may gain some friends. They're really testing time. If they have children, it's another trauma of feeling the guilt of not being able to give them a stable family. And and again, how children will face the society, that itself is another trauma for them. And their own work or business gets affected. Right. Not to the great extent, but to some extent, that judgment seeps into it. And this is a very tough phase of life. So I'm creating a course for this aspect, so that they will have something that they can go back and check and improve themselves in what different aspects and what are different people doing in this part. Like parenting as a shared parent or a single parent. How do people manage? So that's sort of. I'm creating a course with a few people with that. So these are the kind of things I'm doing right now.
Okay. And what the future beholds, we are yet to see. Apart from all this, I think maybe 1 year down the line or 3 years down the line, we'll have another conversation with the latest updates.
Things are changing very fast.
Because with you, I think it's been a constant change and a constant, it's like a dynamic, a new thing comes in every 1 or 2 months or 3 months, and there's something new. And this is what I find very fascinating with you.
One thing I said, when something puts you down, there is a lot more to learn there.
Yeah.
I work with pain day in, day out with clients.
Yeah.
And I find that pain is the biggest teacher in our life.
Yeah. If we know exactly how to receive from it.
So that is the whole process of this coaching. Converting the pain I don't like to I love myself. That the lesson happens there.
So when the shit happens, the shift happens.
Yes. True.
So receive everything and find a way or find someone who can help you. And in this case, I highly recommend you, because I know we have also exchanged work, like we did swap work also. And I know how you operate. So yeah. So thank you so much for having a conversation with me. And are you okay with me giving your details in the description box and publishing this? Yeah.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.